Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You might have been referred to this from a friend or a colleague, may have watched the original version this morning, which we had some technical difficulties with. So this is a repeat. So my name is Sharon Whiteman, and today we're here to talk for 20 minutes or so, if I'm on track, about health myths, what they are. In general, we're not going into a deep dive of data or anything like that, but we definitely want to explore what we've been taught, what's valid, what our responsibilities are today in 2023 and beyond in regards to taking responsibility for our health education and choices. So this is just a little bit about me. Obviously, my first career was as a nurse, and most of that was in critical care. And then I worked for several years in different types of events with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki, and I worked in personal development events. And now I'm leading a Lyme charity in Australia with leadership and advocacy for people affected by tick and other stealth infections been here in Australia. And I'm also a spiritual healer. I've run women's sacred circles for 30 some years now, and it's part of my heart journey. And today, I've got there. I invite you to learn why feeling fine is a dangerous situation. And hopefully you'll understand what that's about, and we'll touch on that again. And that's, an inclusion by one of our colleagues, and it's a really important inclusion. Thank you. So today I'm going to be going a little bit deeper in my personal story and what I've learned from my health journey. And I hope that in sharing and exposing some of my experiences, it might help you reflect on your own and see if there's any parallels or hints towards your own situation. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not asking you to agree with me. This is sharing my personal story, and from those experiences, what I wish I had known many, many years ago, and the knowledge I take going forward from my lessons in health. And I'm inviting you to question and discern everything. What your family told you, what the government tells you, what your doctors tell you, what your beliefs are. Like, I've had some fixed beliefs that I had to have a bit of a shake with myself and, hey, wake up, slap myself on the face, wake up, girl. So really the bottom line if you leave here after this 20 minutes or so and you become an active partner in your healthcare choices, your decisions, who you take advice from, learn to be discerning and questioning of all of those things, then I think this 20 minutes would have been a successful endeavor. So we'll start with my story from the beginning. I was a primate breech birth, which means that it was my mother's first baby, and I came out backwards, bum first. And that wasn't really a great start for my mom or myself, neither of us. And that followed on quickly with an immediate infection. So in my first month of life, I had a severe systemic infection that looked like boils that they diagnosed at that time as staph that covered me head to toe. I had febrile convulsions. I was really sick. They started me on antibiotics. I can remember my mom telling me that at that point I had to have hot compresses, and a single face washer covered my whole body at that time to compress all the boils that were all over me. That led to probably my first 6 years of life in medical care. I was constantly on antibiotics, and they felt like my immune system couldn't combat staph. That was the decision at the time. This was in the late 50s. And they developed a vaccine for me. From then on, I had an injection every week. My grandfather used to take me, and I used to get an ice cream after if I didn't cry when they gave me the needle. You can imagine that's quite a indoctrination or an early experience embedded in my I guess, agreeing to healthcare going forward. I went from there. I had other infections and signs at that time. If we knew what we knew now, it'd be probably a different approach, but that's just time. There's no blame there. That's just growth and development and research. But I had an infection from a cat bite that had me hospitalized as a teenager. And then as I hit my 20s and just graduated from nursing and had moved to my first job, about an 8-hour drive away from home, I developed an eye disease called uveitis. It's autoimmune, they determined, and it was one of the most severe they'd ever seen. They told me that they thought that there was fears that I would go blind. I ended up on 60 milligrams of oral prednisone daily, which is a very high amount and shouldn't be. sustain very long. And I also had prednisone eye drops, which I had to do every hour when it was at the worst flares, and even set an alarm all night and have those drops 2 hourly. So you can imagine almost my whole 20s, I was on prednisone at some level. By my late 20s, I had tapered down to say only 5 milligrams. And then I went every second day because whatever my autoimmunity was so fragile that I'd stop and then it would flare. And so you can imagine what an impact 10 years of prednisone would have made on my immune system. In my early 30s, I decided that I started to feel not aligned with my nursing career. I started to think differently. I started to question. That was the first time in my life. And I decided that I wanted to leave nursing and become a psychologist. And so I decided to come to Australia to travel for a year. And then I came to Australia, and at that time they needed a lot of nurses. So I thought, oh, listen, I'm going to stay and explore Australia for a bit longer. Having a job here and filling my bank account again after traveling for 9 months would be a good thing. So I got a job because I was highly qualified in critical care in Canada. I worked in coronary angioplasty, ICU emergency, and they were just starting coronary angioplasty here in Australia. And so I got an immediate job. They changed my visa and everything, which they didn't usually do after 30. And I worked there for a while and then started to get sick, actually. I moved from coronary angioplasty to open heart theater. I was an anesthetic nurse. I worked alongside the anesthetist and the cardiovascular surgeons. And there was a lot of chemicals in that environment, very closed environment. And I think the anesthetic gas was not good for my health. And I think with that history that you just heard about, I was teetering on something. Like, I didn't feel any different. As I said in that first slide, I felt fine, but I didn't attribute the increased fatigue and my, I just thought I was tired, and I didn't have enough knowledge to really question that. After that job, I went and got a job. I was a nursing unit manager at the fatigue clinic. It was the first of its kind in Manly, in Sydney, Australia, and we had chronic fatigue patients come in a reverse cycle, air-conditioned, positive pressure environment, and we used kinesiology and IV vitamin C and psychology, and it was a real integrative approach. That was my first soiree into integrative medicine, and I was really passionate about that. I'm getting an unstable internet message here, so hopefully that's not affecting this recording. So at that time, I gradually got sicker, and then it became impossible to ignore the fatigue. And with the integrative doctors there, I started to realize, and I subsequently had a diagnosis of chronic fatigue. And by that point of feeling fine and ignoring fatigue for many years and all that history, I actually by then had abnormal blood work, and they progressed me to that. So I resigned, moved to Queensland, where I could live more affordably without income, and spent the next several years trying to figure out what was going on for me. At that time, I had the great fortune and a random experience of meeting some women through spiritual connections who told me about a company called Manatech. And it was a network marketing company. It was just launching in Australia, and they heard about my immune system issues and my chronic fatigue, and they said, you need to try Ambertose, which was a nutritional glycan. And I just closed the door on them. Basically, I says, no, you can't talk to me about that. But I just, a few things they said made me curious. And another thing that they did was they said, here, have a listen to this. If it makes sense to you, great, and we can help you. If it doesn't, then there's no harm done. And I thought, well, I wouldn't actually, I literally had the thought I couldn't really respect myself for saying no to listening to something when they said I could just say no. So I did. I can still remember sitting in my car listening to that audio and thinking, well, embarrassed. Why was I scared of this? I was thinking, holy moly, this is common sense. The things in there that made sense to me is that our food isn't what it used to be, and that the cells are a foundation of good health. And if our cells aren't getting the nourishment that they need, then good health is impossible, no matter what else is going on. And I also made sense to me that that we had to take action and be proactive. That does make sense to me. Our food was less nutritious. And I thought, this might not be a fix for my situation, but if I don't have that cellular nutrition, that foundation there, and nothing else I have to do or can do about my health situation will fully benefit. And from that moment on, I started taking it. Now, it was a slow journey for me within about 6 weeks, because again, as my colleague Kelly has said, feeling fine is dangerous. Because I'd gone so long and be able to keep functioning, I didn't really consider the subtle signs that I was experiencing. So within 6 weeks, my friends and family around me could see I was improving. My energy was lighter and had more abilities. By 3 months, I could feel it myself. And then I started to get excited. I started sharing because I thought, why would I wait to tell other people something like this for it to help me? Because this is nutrition. It's not going to help everybody in the same timeline or in the same way as everybody else. But again, it has to be the foundation for wellness, even if you require other intervention. And so I started sharing with people. Within 18 months, I had fully recovered. I was back to power walking. I was bushwalking. I was active. I was happy. There's nothing worse than losing your health to lower the mood. And mine was pretty difficult. So I went on to live a pretty normal life, an active life for several years. And then in 2002, I got bit by a tick. And I didn't know the dangers of ticks. It was in Sunshine Coast that I had that tick bite. That night, I had a terrible flu, a really bad feeling in doom. I felt really sick, and I got this big red rash on my arm. Unfortunately, I got up and looked on the internet and researched that rash and ticks, and they told me on the internet my rash was a bullseye rash. It looked exactly the same. Unfortunately, I only saw an entomology site, though, so it told me that it's rarely fatal. And so I thought, well, I'll just increase my immune support and keep going. And I didn't understand at that time that a bullseye rash is actually diagnostic of a very serious tick-borne infection, and it requires the whole arsenal thrown at it. And nutrition is definitely an additional foundation, an essential foundation in my personal opinion, but not the total solution. So you see these pictures on the right-hand side. I declined and declined and declined over the next 4 years. It was a roller coaster. I think almost 20 doctors, terrible experiences in the doctor's office. And then I had given up. But I never stopped my nutrients. And I gradually found another solution, an intervention to partner with my glyconutrients and other nutrients to fully recover to a functioning level. So that whole journey brought me in a lot of cycles, and it gave me a lot of lessons and learnings to bring forward to help others. So one of the things we want to talk about here, on top of my personal history, and you may be reflecting right now on your own personal history or someone that you know or love, their personal history, we need to look at what's wrong in the big picture and how we've been taught and how we've been led to look after our health. So one thing is food. Like, we're bombarded with marketing, and there's always a new fad that, we got to move away from beef. You got to move away from, animal proteins, and then they're adding insects in there. The ingredients in fast food or processed food or even health food brands are questionable, and it's hard to get to the bottom in research. You basically need a PhD. I mean, it's beyond my capacity to track it all. And I'm a busy mom with 3 teenagers. They love these flashy colors in food. And while they ate pretty healthy as young kids, as teenagers, they're making decisions for themselves a lot of the times, and it's scary. And I actually see most average families out there doing the same, unaware of these dangers. And the responsibility lies solely in our health education and probably some of our government policies and regulations. It's really important to get on top of studying the food and keep as natural, keep as possible, grown things, plants, animals. It's a hard one, isn't it? You can see on the top there, even the ingredients, even in natural foods, they have all different names. And now a lot of the times they change them to numbers, and they are deceptive. We need to talk about conspiracy theories. I've got another slide coming. To get discerning about this, we do have to be a bit of like a detective, and sometimes expect the worst and fear the worst and be willing to look at the truth. We basically, in our society, now there are individual families or lineages that are different, and they've grown up and they've been able to isolate from this. But for the most part, we're never educated on how to stay healthy. Like if you heard from my story, and it's probably typical, maybe 80% people think that they just keep going. As long as they can keep going and show up at work and they're awake and functioning, that they're healthy. And that's not true. And our healthcare is basically sick care. So once we're there and we end up being in a cycle of staying sick, but maybe keep taking things with the hope to be better. I think that's it on that topic, because this next one builds on that. We also get very conflicting, even in the healthy arenas or the natural health arenas, very conflicting advice on what diet to take. So you can see the pictures on the right, a balanced diet with fruits and vegetable and healthy proteins. Or there's the carnivore diet, where they're focusing a lot on carnivore and no carbs at all. Or vegan diets or vegetarian diets. Which is the best? I don't know. To be honest, I think that there is no one right diet for every individual person. I think we're all genetically and biologically and biochemically different, and we'll have unique needs and unique dietary needs as well. It may be different in different cultures and races. And I think it's a personal thing, and I think it's an individual thing. And I don't really know if there's enough mainstream education to help you determine exactly what's right for you. So I think it's about, at minimum, you can be comfortable in starting with real, raw, fresh foods and minimizing your processed foods and your high GI carbs. I think that's what I do. I think anything else I'm not 100% sure of. And it's left a lot of question marks for many people in what is actually a healthy diet for every single person. In addition, we've got the health system problems, right? So again, trained to be helpless in healthcare. We're trained to wait until we're sick, go to the doctor. I think it wouldn't be too hard to convince you after the last 4 years that we've got a lot of systemic issues in health, that we've got, really conflicting professional opinions, that the financial burden is increasing. Possibly good healthcare, which right now for me is an integrative approach, is only for the wealthy. It's very expensive. And I want you to question and learn to discern. Are you allowed to ask questions in your medical appointments? If you go for expert advice in the current healthcare system for any kind of issue, do they welcome and invite your own story, your own perspective, your own questions? Can you question, do they work in partnership with you? I've rarely found that. I have found someone now, and I have definitely found it with integrative medicine specialists. But again, that's less than 1% of what's available to us in healthcare. So I invite you to understand that you do have the power and choice, and it's all about education. We need to invest in our health, and investment is learning something different, opening our mind to realize that we're kind of being duped in the healthcare system, and that we're actually, in my personal and professional opinion, after all these years, we're the victims in the situation. And as victims in this situation, we definitely have the choice and the power to learn more and make new choices. So if this is brand new information to you and you've only ever listened to your doctor and done as you're told like a really good person, start on the bottom right-hand corner here. Start with those Post-it notes, any one of those, and give yourself permission to, I've got a friend who tries to operate at 150% all the time. I'm coaching her, start at 50. Like if you did that every second day, even if your goal was every day, is that a huge step forward if you're looking back? Is that way better than where you come? New habits take time, and you need to be gentle and kind to yourself in making them. So this is a really good summary. So good health in the middle needs balance, needs diet, it needs preventive approach, it needs developing new habits, and that's a one step forward, 2 steps back sometimes, or 2 steps forward, 1 back. Be gentle with yourself, and some fitness and activity. So the other thing I want you to question, another aspect of this whole situation, is about the financial investment. So right now, the cost of just normal basic GP healthcare and getting a blood test and going to a hospital is rising. It's not free anymore. Basic doctor's consult is $80. Medicare only covers part. Some are rising, if you're some of the clinics that are private, they're charging $100 and still only get, what is it, 43 or something like that back from Medicare. Waiting lists are increasing. Hospitals are understaffed. They can't get enough doctors, so they're having to shut down things. So think about that for a minute. We're educated to prepare for retirement, but not for our health. And what kind of sabotages that? So we fight through not listening to our body because we're been educated that way. And we sort of roll into retirement, and we're lucky if we have enough health to enjoy it, even though we've invested there. What if we invested in our health from the beginning and we're educated to do that? So I think the real question to take away from this slide is, the real choice is, can we change our priorities of where we invest our money? It is worthwhile. We're set up to trust free healthcare, right? Which no longer is free. It's a gradual erosion of free healthcare and a total loss of choice if we can only have free healthcare. The mistake is in not learning that we need to also contribute financially towards good health. So it really is possible to change old habits and develop new habits. So the ones we want to let go of are on the bottom. Wait till you get sick to act, remain hopeless and helpless, only listen to one expert, be scared to question, and do as you're told. Now that definitely was the whole first 30 years of my life. Seriously. The next 30, I've been learning all kinds of new skills. This isn't a wake up tomorrow and know everything if you're wanting to make this change. We need to learn to be active learners, to be citizen researchers, to recognize that prevention is key, that an integrative approach to your healthcare is smart, and to expect collaboration in healthcare. You go into that doctor's office and you keep going to different doctors until you have somebody who's going to collaborate with you and listen to your questions and concerns. And again, I want to repeat this. It is really important after what we've been through again in the last 4 years. Any critical thinker and researcher is now labeled as a conspiracy theorist. And that is direct gaslighting. It's not true. It's okay for yourself to question. Matter of fact, you're being called by God, I believe, to question what we're being told in healthcare. It's the most important first change to make, is to be critical in thinking and questioning. So, my story won't be exactly the same as everyone, but you can see the lessons I've learned, and sometimes only on looking back. I didn't learn them immediately. I look back and now I can see trends and see where I could have made a different choice. So some of this or all of this will be making sense for you. You'll have your own story. What's your story now and what's possible for you going forward? You absolutely have the power to rewrite your health story in your future. So the foundation of making those changes as you go forward is to know that your good health starts at the cell level. And I'm going to read this verbatim. Healthy cells make healthy tissues, which make healthy organs and healthy organ systems. And that's what required to have a fully healthy, vibrant you. So you need to learn those foundations of good health. Lifestyle choices are key. I know that's common sense, but at least nutrition, movement, mindset, and rest. I'll go back to that sticky note page and just pin that up somewhere. And if you do one of those things a day or build one habit in a week or over a month, and that continues, then you can add the next one. Choose a preventative approach. Self-care is absolutely, you need to be working on prevention. The other thing to be keenly aware of is that your genetic expression versus genetics. So you can impact your genetic expression, and there's lots of ways to know for it. And definitely nutritional glycans are part of that. They start impacting your cells and your innate immune system, and they're really critical as a foundation. The other thing that's good news is that you're always creating new cells. And if you start to build your nutritional profile, you can build new, healthier cells. And that's a gradual momentum forward as well. And taking personal responsibility will require deprogramming yourself from our trained helplessness in healthcare. And I believe we've been deliberately disempowered in that area. And it's something that I've had to relearn and start to set new boundaries on and try again going forward. And it's something I have to recommit to. I'm not always good at it. I'm often going to helplessness in the doctor's office, and I have to coach myself inside. I probably feel a bit psychotic or something with both of my voices in the doctor's office, but I do have a bit of medical PTSD from some of my experiences. So this is our foundational nutritional glycan projects. So products rather. I told you earlier that, I had a line in the sand, John, when I got bit by a tick, and I needed more than just nutrition. But I've now, over the last 20 years, being involved in trying to advocate for other Lyme patients in Australia, have realized that nutritional glycans for me has made a significant difference in my ability to return to function in my life. And if I compare myself to my peers with the similar, I had 6 tick-borne infections when I finally got tested, and I'm able to function and help others. And some people have really lost everything they've known of in their good health. So while it's not a complete, we're not advocating this as a treatment. I know any treatment that I've used for my tick-borne diseases have been potentiated by the fact that I have nutritional glycans on board. It is the foundation. Is these products here today are the starting point. I take a lot of other Manitech products as well, the foundational ones, just the vitamin mineral and the immune support. And I don't go a day without them either. But these are if you're starting somewhere, I mean, everybody needs immune support now. This is what you need to look at. And to further validate Manitech, I'm not here to sell to you, but I know I have 20 years experience or 25 years experience with this company, and I'm proud to partner with them. I'm proud to partner with them because of their science and their absolute commitment to good science and good technologies and good innovations in their nutritional supplements. So we are a science-driven company. That's what got me in the beginning, even when I was abjectly opposed to network marketing because I didn't know anything about it. That was another lesson learned. We are the pioneer in glyconutrition. We have the purest and most potent form of ACE mannan. Just Google that. Cell-to-cell communication does not happen. So remember, starting at the cell level, in order for one cell to communicate to another group of cells what they need, whether it's support, regulation, enhanced, immune support, whatever, they need to communicate to that other group of cells that, hey, I need help. This is a cell in trouble. And without these nutritional glycans, that communication process does not happen. I'd like to speculate, if there was science available, that, I could have used nutritional glycans from birth. For whatever reason, I had a defective immune system. I wonder what my life story would have looked like if I would have had this. And I can guarantee you, my 3 children had these nutrients in every single, as soon as they had a bottle, it was in that. And prior to that, it was in the mother's milk. We also have exclusive, so Manitech goes to great extents to secure how precious this product is. So we have an exclusive agreement with Costa Rica. They're looking at secondary locations in case in this world something goes wrong with that location. We've got 25 plus years of safety and efficacy. And I think you might have noticed over the last few years through what we've been through, that once people started speaking up and they had, evidence or questions or something was obviously illogical and didn't make sense, what did they do? They got gaslit and accused of being a conspiracy theorist. So when good things come out, actually where I'm at now, when I see somebody getting blasted by the news, I think, what are they onto? That I want to learn about what that person's doing. And Manitech is no different. We've had that experience of trying to suppress our technology. But fortunately, in glyconutrition science, glycoscience itself is progressing so rapidly, they can't really do that to us anymore. And we have the nutritional solution for that, for our immune system and other cells. And that's just, it's priceless what we have. So the bottom line is, I hand on heart can say that you can trust your health with Manitech. Another bonus, but also the foundational culture of Manitech, is that we are social entrepreneurial company, in that with every product that we sell, a percentage goes towards funding the M5M Foundation and nourishing at-risk child globally. So these are kids that would, they don't even get enough food. Some of them, the families get 3 meals a week. They now get this packet of a blend of pure nutrition that's mixed into whatever food they can have and do have there. And that's the transformation of these kids, even in learning behavior, energy, that's immediately seen by their carers and families, is heartwarming. And, it brings tears to everyone's eyes. And our company does that before profit. So that's what true social entrepreneurship is, before profit. Whether we make a profit, this is the very culture and the mission that we're about. So in starting to conclude here, I'd really like to invite you to trust yourself. Commit now to be curious and investigative. It's okay to be a learner and build knowledge. Chunk for success. It's okay to go 2 steps forward and then misstep. Join like-minded wellness groups. You know, when I'm making decisions, even I recently wanted to take my son to an entomologist, not an entomologist. Sorry, word's not going to come to me, but to a specialist doctor. And I started looking through Facebook groups and asking other moms if they had recommendations. I look for recommendations and I collaborate with peers that are interested in the same thing to get their feedback before making a decision. There's lots of coaching, like there's a healthy moms group online, and there's so much information in there about, you know, herbal first aid remedies or homeopathic first aid remedies. And we can gather together, link arms, and support in such they're not dangerous to investigate with nutrition and herbs. Give yourself permission to get second opinions, to stand up for yourself. Learn the yes and no for you, what your yes and no is, what's right and wrong for you. Be willing to change doctors. You know, I had such trauma from being gaslit over there's no Lyme disease in Australia. And these doctors, you know, the individual doctors are being betrayed by the health policymakers, and the minority of doctors, the majority of doctors, if they knew what I knew, they would do the right thing. But you have to have courage to stand up and say no. And for most of us, I was never educated to say, I was educated just to listen to them. They're the experts, and they're not the experts in everything. And they're definitely not the expert in you. You're the number one expert in you, and you have a right to double check. And so one of the strategies I used was I just went to a multi-doctor session or clinic, and I go to a different one every time, because I wasn't going to trust them to build a relationship with them, open my heart to them because of all the trauma I'd had. And then I went to this one woman, and it was just one of my choosing someone new, and she was amazing, and she was smart, and she was asked me questions. She was collaborative. She was opened. When I told her I got sick after tick bite, she said, "Oh, it's a pretty rough situation right now, isn't it?" You know, and you can find the right match for you in a GP. And I was never critical or anything. It just wasn't right. And I gave my, maybe from a different reason because of PTSD, but I also end up finding someone that is right for me. So I know you can do that as well. Remember, the health starts at that cell level. And today is the day to start, because a healthier you awaits you. And if you're healthy now and you're feeling fine, well, remember, you can't feel what's happening on your cells. So just start at whatever one you feel motivated or capable of doing right now. So I leave you with this. Let's all link arms, obliterate these health myths, and start to bring a healthy life forward. And that being the major, most productive message for the people we love and care about, and ourselves. So thank you for being here. If you made it this far, I hope this added value for you, and please share the word.